ousting the rulership of the crown of England. They're getting from under the rule of the fake queen, and each island is supposed to have their own queen, their own grand matriarch or island mother. They used to have that until the invaders came.
Before I say the next one, speaking on the islands, you posted yesterday, speaking on Arawak and the Taino.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that.
Yeah, so those are some of the biggest tribes. You also had your Boricua, and a few more of them that made up the islands. The islands was resorts for us. You know how they use them for tourism now?
Yeah.
Well, you wasn't allowed to be a tourist on the island without bringing gifts to the matriarch. And she would send you back home to give your matriarch gifts. This is how we know our culture's been usurped. Because now people just go to the island with no regard for the people of the island. Right? So when the tribe would do a family vacation from up here, Big Mama would say, don't go down there without taking this with you. And she'd give you a whole bunch of whatever, food stuffs that, whatever that island doesn't naturally produce that they can benefit from, that's what we would send them. And then they would send us what we call the delicacies of the island, which is their exotic fruits and their exotic arts and crafts. And they would send that back for Big Mama. And then Big Mama would give gifts out of those packages a lot of times. Right? So that was in our culture. We never went to nobody's house without bearing gifts until they gave us a Bible.
That damn Bible. Whatchamacallit? Where can the Nubian men go that want to tribe up in North Carolina?
Somebody have to be the spearhead, the first one to start it. Right? That goes for anywhere. Somebody had to be the first one to start it in the local area. You know, it could be rallied around a farmer's market, or it could be rallied around a religious institutional building, but you're going to overthrow religion by instituting spirituality. Most of the so-called Muslims, that's the converts of the last 50 years, they already know what's up. It's just the Christians that used to be like Malcolm, the Vernon Johns Christians, are now Martin Luther King Christians. Martin Luther King used a military strategy adopted from Mohandas K. Gandhi called civil disobedience. That means you can't tell us what the fuck to do. We're going to go where we want. It's our land. We're not listening to a de facto corporation issue us orders. Right now, we at the point where if the chiefs don't start stepping up and organizing, it all starts with the family. Because they wanted to give us a one world currency from a centralized bank that was stationed in Switzerland. We don't want that, because that means that they still holding our wealth hostage. We want them to get the fuck gone and we can handle our own wealth. Well, in continuity of government, they are right now organizing how to divide up the wealth among family banks to decentralize the centralized banking system used to steal our wealth. Right? So if you're going to decentralize it, you have to put back the original structure. You know, so that's what we're working on. So somebody, anywhere you at, have to be the spearhead. You know, you have to be the first one to start organizing your local area. Right? I'm just telling everybody, all of the biggest chiefs, male and female, across the land are all on the same page. And my job is to inform the grassroots that we finna step back into the power. But not only are we stepping back into power, we reclaimed all our wealth. And we have the military support of the most powerful military in the world to enforce it for us when we claim our power. The only thing we waiting on now is critical mass of awareness. that the
Free
old
Larry
system
Hoover.
is gone. Be aware that the old system is gone. Be aware that our system returns to oral tradition. And we put things in the public domain so we don't do that secret squirrel shit and motherfuckers selling you out behind your back. Yeah.
I put a little bit more water in it. This is called too.
Appreciate you, nephew. Right. So, the organizing effort, the cheat sheet, right? Everybody, like, you can't mention tribing up to them. You just tell them that you want to be counted among the righteous, and you can talk to anybody in the Nation of Islam.
All right, so this one, it's like a statement in a comment. He says the Black community is already under matriarchy and things ain't looking good at all. When y'all speak about patriarchy, it'd be a good idea to separate European from indigenous patriarchy. The land is under European patriarchy, not indigenous. If we were matriarchal, that means that we got conquered under matriarchy. Critical thinking is crucial. Both matriarchy and patriarchy are one-sided. The two together make a whole. The latter is the solution, not the formers. And that was the end of that.
He partially right. And matriarchy did get overthrown. That's why we in this fucked up condition. And it was overthrown by women who wanted their mate to be rulers of the world. They come from a whole different psychological makeup than matriarchal people. What we perceiving as matriarchy, and this is why he's talking about two sides of the same coin. That's European matriarchy and European patriarchy. The European matriarchy is the woman has to manipulate her man into position to do what's necessary, right? Under our matriarchy, it's not about the man or the woman. It's about the children and the future. So when we start looking at the difference, he's looking at feminism as patriarchy, a matriarchy. Feminism is a patriarchal in-run around matriarchy. That's how they overthrew the matriarchy, because the sisters they deceived didn't know the difference, right? Because they was under the cultural conditioning of running the tribe a certain way. And when a threat comes, the chief stands out front, right? So we can't mix feminism with patriarchy because they're not the same thing. I mean, with matriarchy. Patriarchy and feminism, European patriarchy, is the flip side of the feminist movement. And European patriarchy requires you to subjugate potential heirs by anally penetrating them, making them unfit to rule. That's why they're pushing a gay agenda. The ruler can't be anally penetrated. And his semen can't be found in another man.
That's deep. That was it from the comment section. When I had started the live earlier, there were like 3 questions, new ones. So
let's get to them.
Touch on that real quick. Somebody asked, do we stop enrollment into the schools and colleges? Do we stop all signing of any consent forms, period?
I've been screaming, take your children out of educational system because they're using it to train us for prison and labor. It's the slave training system, modern education. We have to disassociate in order to take the education of our children into our hands and educate them to be free, independent, self-sufficient, and free thinkers. The system we are under is diametrically opposed to any of that. So the short answer is yeah. Kill the educational system. It's a couple things holding them in power right now. One is the contract with the W-2s and W-4s through the IRS. That means people are going to work every day. That's because they operating on a per diem basis. That's mean by the day.
Yeah.
So when a certain amount of people clock in a 24-hour period to a job, that's where they derive in the next day's wager from, right? And the educational system is the secondary contract because you're signing your child up to be subjugated by the de facto corporation, which is actually two corporations that merged, the Northwest Trading Company and the Virginia Company. Both of them were slave trading companies.
Yeah, so to answer y'all question, y'all should have been enrolled them yesterday ago. What should we call it? What do we need to do to get rid of birth certificates and social security card hold over people who have yet to proclaim a nationality or haven't linked back to their indigenous tribes as of yet?
So what we have to do is call abandonment of the contract. We have to abandon the contract because they have never honored a single contract and they had no intentions of honoring them. So that makes the contract become fraud. And that's a criminal action under the law of the land. And the only remedy for the one that discovers the fraud, whereas not to be party to it, is to abandon the contract. That means just stop using anything, driver's license, birth certificates, social security cards, anything that require that. Skip it.
All right. To piggyback off of that, if you out driving and you get stopped and you want to start implementing what you just said and you don't have your driver license, what would people do in that moment?
Well, until we reach critical mass, they still in power. They still in power until we kick them out of power.
Okay.
And the naysayers is what's holding them in power right now. The ones that don't know no better. They are the most deceived bunch right now. So until we see three kings walking on the land, they still in power. So they can still harass you and give you a hard time. But none of this shit is legitimate. They're all operating in a de facto capacity. They all know this. The police know this at the higher levels, but the foot soldier police don't know shit. All they did was went to school, got a diploma, took them a couple of years of pre-law or criminal law, and then they joined the academy and became a cop. You don't need a PhD to be a police officer, right? So all you need to know is the people versus, Miranda versus New Mexico, right? Which is your Miranda rights. And you need to know the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And after that, the rest of it, they wing it. They winging it. They winging it like a motherfucker because they don't know. And when you run across one that knows he's not gonna treat you, he's not gonna bully you, right? But as long as we leaving them in power, they got the jurisdiction to, or at least they have the appearance of jurisdictions enough to make you uncomfortable for a while. But don't nobody want to voluntarily be uncomfortable where they can control it for a little while to be free for eternity. So they all want to go along to get along with the system.
This next one, which is pretty much the last question that I had typed up, if anybody had like maybe 2 or 3 more, matter of fact, there was one in the comments. So why do our men promote rape culture in jail?
Because they gay. Seriously, when you can't promote something that ain't part of who you are. I don't support rape culture. I did 16 years. I don't fuck with boys.
Yeah, real men ain't promoting that shit.
Yeah, the ones that's pushing that shit is gay.
There you go. Who said that? I'm not even about to butcher your name. This question was, if I file a 1099, does that mean I'm back in contract?
Yep. You contracting with the Internal Revenue Service. Those are internal documents, right? But the 1099 before January the 4th was the smartest course of action to navigate the contract. Now that the contract is up, we don't want none of it. See, we went from navigating the contract. This is what Taj was teaching us for so long, how to navigate the contract, right? And if you understood what he was teaching, then you could have navigated the contract during its life. As of January the 4th, 2019, the contract ended. When the contract ended, now everybody that's trying to use the navigation process is actually making it worse for themselves because they recontracted with a dead entity.
Nobody saying nothing in the comments for any questions. So just to reflect back from the beginning, the declaration is nothing but the goodbye letter, letting us know if we step up, they just stepping out the way. And abandon the contract. Anything, Social Security, birth certificate, driver license, 1099s, W-2s, all that. Anything that links back to them, just abandon it.
Right. So the biggest entries that they using is the contract for education with the children, the contract for labor with the jobs, and the what they call judicial contracts, which is court claims. People calling the police on motherfuckers. Don't call the police on that nigga. Beat his motherfucking ass.
If we live in Mexico, how can I cross my family into America without a passport?
Wait till you see the Three Kings, because we're gonna do away with that shit instantly. Because California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas, all that's Mexico. That's all part of one land territory. That's part of the same territory. It wasn't until the Mexican-American War that they divided that up. And that's why Texas had to reserve the right to become an independent nation once the contract was up. So Texas can go back. It can divide up into as many as 5 nations.
Sheesh.
You know, that's going to stay in their contract. I mean, in their constitution of the state until it go back to territory. Right? The wealth of Mexico is equivalent of the wealth of the Middle East. Why are all those people starving?
Holy shit.
Just what you do. And this going to be good. This going to be a good little checkup. Check oil levels of Mexico, like oil production, mineral production, gross domestic product, gross national product. And you're going to be surprised. You're not going to understand why the people poor.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Equivalent to the Middle
Mexico is like
East?
one of the top 20 oil producing nations in the world.
I didn't know that. The only thing I knew was for like the past 50 years, the U.S. been mining oil over here, but they can only borrow against it
in surplus. Right. So that's because they're not allowed to trade it because it ain't theirs, it's ours. And since they can't trade it, they had to hold it in reserve, and then they can borrow against it to run the government. We ain't supposed to be paying taxes. Taxes has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, that's robbery right there. Getting taxed on everything.
Well, the IRS was a private corporation with a board of directors that don't even live in this country.
What?
So we talking about taxation without representation. Wasn't that what the Boston Tea Party that set it all off was about?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
Damn.
actually the Boston Tea Party was when they claimed we crashed into their ship with our landmass and captured us under admiralty law and used the squatters' rights to insert it beyond the 10 square mile jurisdiction of the disputed territory or the crash site dispute.
So even those affidavits are set up too, because this shit popping up everywhere about the bills process
Look,
and all.
all you have to do, like we doing now on this live, is reserve all your rights in the public domain. It's time stamped and dated on social media. That's why we can use social media, right? Because even though you have to sign an agreement to access it, most of us accessed it before the contract expired, right? Once the contract expired, it notified all of the contracts that's contingent upon.
And that's like the things that we need to focus on, either really individually, because if we all individually are prepared, then as a community, we all have.
I want certain stuff. I want my children to want for it to the point where they feel that they can work for it and they can earn what it is that they don't have that they want. And that's going to teach them 2 lessons. Ain't nobody better than you, but you ain't better than nobody else. And if you see something that you really want, it's going to require you to perform or to do certain efforts in order to attain that. If you just want a motherfucker to pass you something because of who you is, then you in the wrong house. You better take your ass down the street. And that house of entitlement, yeah, they trading titles on that motherfucker on a regular basis.
That's a good one. You got all the good stuff.
So, yeah. So, so I don't want my children to be suffering with poverty, but I also don't want stuff so easy where they don't have no grit, where they can't bounce back from shit. These the softest motherfuckers I ever could imagine to be on earth right now in this time. When we grew up, we used to get ass whoopings and whoop ass.
But you know, it's that tablet. It's that tablet. It's that phone. It's those video games that we, you know, guilty as charged. Tell them to go play on so we can have a moment instead of engaging with them. They're not outside having life experience with each other and interactions with each other. So we have to start doing that again. Like with my sons, when they come over, they get annoyed with me, but we're going to play a board game. And I know it seems real simple and like I'm not really teaching them life, but it's just even those interactions that build character and kind of build resolve and strategy. Just, you know, something simple.
Look, when you sit them down to the board game next time, explain this to them. Life got rules, and ain't nobody going to teach them to you.
See, and that's the thing that I feel like.
Hold on. These board games is a game with a set of rules that can apply somewhere else in life later on if you learn the rules to this game. You practice it so that you understand how this game works, so when you see it play out in real life, you know how to win that game in real life. So you think we playing board games, but really I'm giving you tools to go in to the world and come out successful. This is why I'm teaching you how to play Monopoly, because it's always a motherfucker gonna try to monopolize on everything you do. So you need to be able to see the game before you ever learn how to play the game in business. So we teach you to play it in a board game. Right. And the more board games that you learn as a child, the more tools you have to navigate life with through the path of least resistance, meaning not getting beat to death by life.
Right. Even like with Connect 4, like just teaching teaching them to slow down and look at what the play is going to be, trying to have like predictive, thought process or programming, in a sense, like what is this person's strategy? That alone is a tool for life.
Yeah. See, like I like to tell my son about stories about people like Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan. They saying once upon a time it was this guy named Attila, and I'll go into like leadership strategies of Attila the Hun to share with him little things that can be given to him in story format at an early age that will sink into um, his mind to the point where it'll become part of his original program.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's a natural born strategist because he already know about Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan, Hannibal, Muhammad Ahmed, you know what I'm saying, Shaka Zulu. He know about the great strategists of history at an early age because dad gave them to him as little stories to tell him while we was on our drive to go fishing.
Right. And he's going to remember all of that information too. Like, we have to get back to storytelling, like, and really also like we have to get back to listening to the elders when they speak and not really, and not ignoring them or not being like, oh, I don't really rock with that elder
time frame to work from based off the movement of the energy. Some of them gonna be so latched on to the energy, it's gonna be like binge watching your favorite TV show. They gonna keep coming back every day doing spreads on the same energy because they'll see the changes that fast in the oracle read. A lot of times when I tell people that don't understand what I'm saying, I say refer to the oracles and ask them if my information is correct, because what you can't see with the spiritual eye, you looking physically, they can see spiritually what I'm telling you, and then they can tell you physically what it's going to mean, because they're catching the energy as it's changing in real time, and they're using the focal point of whatever their oracle style is. Some tea readers, some read runes, some read cards, some read entrails, some read nuts, some read shells, but they all got their own way of interpreting those energy signatures that's coming in from spirit. Right.
Yes, and I'm kind of running while you're speaking. I'm running about 4 different readers on the information about 4 different ones I know do reading, so you might want to reach out. But there are folks that are on YouTube that are doing daily.
Yeah. So my some of my favorite tarot readers is Blue Rose Tarot has uncanny accuracy. Also, I listen to Brittany Madison, who has an uncanny accuracy. She's actually done spreads on the because and she did some other reads too. I asked her to do a couple of other reads and she done them. Then you also, it's a sister on here who's looking at the organic side of the tribal side named Chief Janace. She's pretty intuitive and she's coming from more of an academic angle from her intuition, and she's sharing information. There's a couple more of them. I don't have them all off the top of my head like that because I'm horrible with names, as hard as that might be to. But those are just some of the ones that I listen to who has uncannily accurate information, and I can also use the information to go into more detail.
Yeah. Well.
Right. So I can listen to a tarot spread and refine the reading by adding more definitions to more parts of the cards than the reader is actually doing.
Wow. Yeah, so you got that background. You got that background. Listen, we are 2 hours and 39 minutes into this wonderful show. Not even want to call it show, broadcast, information, broadcast update. And again, I just, I'm open, honest, transparent. Planned another show for this evening, and then we had to postpone it for another time. And at short notice, reached out to you, Brother Rod, who, as you said, you had just finished completed an assignment that Big Mama had sent you on, and you were like, "This is perfect." You know, I think you were thinking about update, and I called you about update. But then I was led to ask you, let's talk about you. You know what I mean? Let's talk about what you know.
Because a lot of people don't know the struggles that go with doing this work.
Right.
Like I'm doing fast sometimes 30, 40 days, 50 days in a row.
Fast? Did you say fast?
I'm fasting.
Fasting. Okay, that's what I thought you said. Okay. Yeah. So you break it up again though. See, I just can't imagine that unless that somebody, well, I do imagine that they are actually interrupting this broadcast, which has been absolutely, but you said for 30, 50 days, you're doing 50-day fast. Is that what you said?
All kind of fast. Some of them be 3 days.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. Some of them be 3-day fast, 7-day fast here, a 20-day fast, a 30-day fast. The longest one was about 50 days. And if you go back and look at my videos, you can see how skinny I was.
I remember seeing one with your, actually, I think the picture that I used on here, you look real skinny. Your face was real thin. The picture I used for the, you know, that you a lot slimmer, a lot more slender. Yeah.
Right. So I went, my physical condition is about 260 to 268. I had got all the way down to 180 something pounds. So I lost almost 100 pounds doing fasts alone. That don't got nothing to do with the meditations, the shadow work, facing the demons. And that's generational curse breaking. That stuff not easy. It sound easy, but most of us don't understand that we actually breaking generational curses by changing certain behavioral patterns that we picked up from our parents.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And yeah, you know, and it's a lot of things you got to face, and then you have to all of the. It's almost like Prometheus. It's almost like, well,
I always tell people.
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me, Dr. G?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work went into this. A lot of years of studying went into this. My library is ridiculous. I got like probably 20 totes packed up with books, and I'm not done packing.
Wow. And how much time did you actually end up doing of that 18 to 50 year sentence?
About 16 years and 8 months.
Okay. So you did some time. So you had time to get your PhD.
A couple of them, because my favorite. Okay, so you have what you call your what you naturally drawn to is medicine. That's me. Me and my cousin Calvin were supposed to be doctors together. He went to university to become a medical doctor. I went to the underworld to become a witch doctor. We still became doctors. We just different kind of doctors.
Okay.
But I became a witch doctor to hold up our agreement that we both be doctors. This one of the things that entails is becoming a naturopathic physician by studying naturopathic medicine.
Right.
Right. Now, I don't have what they call the degree paperwork. So what I have to do is find one of us on the land from where I'm from to send the people to that got the paperwork. And that's Dr. Pittman here in Pontiac from Herbalife. You can find him on my YouTube page. If you put in Herbalife, you can't miss it. That's what it is. And it's in Pontiac, so you'll know it's the right one. But I refer people to him because he got the paperwork and he know the information that I know about health and maybe even more. I'm inclined to believe that he's more versed in what he called Ayurvedic medicine, which is a naturopathic medical training. Every doctor from India goes through it with their Western medicine teachings. So if you get a doctor from India, and they want to write you a prescription, always ask them what's the organic treatment for this. That's a naturopathic remedy. They'll have to give it to you because as a doctor, if you ask for an alternative to treatment that's effective and they're aware of it, they obligated under their Hippocratic oath to give you the information. So the last physician that I was attending was from India, and I used to ask him all of the information to get all of the. I used to be in there um, quizzing his interns and asking them medical information. And one of my favorite things to ask them is the most fascinating thing they learned about the human body. Because for me, the most fascinating things was you don't just have a heartbeat, you got a brain beat. Your brain beat like your heart. That was so amazing to me. So when I started doing my fetal development studies, it made sense because the same stem cells that form the heart is also pulsing, forms the brain. The central nervous system is formed in a straight line, and from that, the heart and the brain both come from different parts of it.
Right,
And
the spine being the governing vessel where it
yeah,
starts to form on. Yeah.
and your third brain is your intestines. And if you learn to control your appetite, you can control your base desires for anything.
Okay.
Increases your willpower overall. That's why we train fasting so hard, because we actually are at an internal war to take control of our willpower from our ego self that the society created. It's a power struggle. W.E.B. Du Bois called it the warring soul in souls of black folks, right? And he described it as the Europeanized white self is in conflict with your organic black self, right? And
Wow.
you are in a dilemma at all times on which side, which one of these selves of yours do you take sides with? As soon as he told me that, I said, I want the organic side out the gate. I don't want the other side. They can keep
I know that's right. I know
I
that's right.
right. The society created that by other people's opinions of me. That don't match my opinion to me, so I don't accept that.
Mhm.
Right. So they told my mama I wasn't gonna never learn nothing. They told my mama that I was gonna be incorrigible and that I'm always gonna be slow and behind everybody else academically. But they didn't know is I was just biding my time so I could jump in another lane, burn rubber, and leave their ass in the dust. Because the same people that told my mama that when they was my age didn't know half the shit I know.
Right. So here's something else probably people did not know about you, that you had such a a background in a holistic and herbal medicinal formulations, and just the knowledge of what is and what isn't going on a holistic basis. But you and I have spoken before, and you have shared that with me. For me personally, I the same thing you have with the doctor that you mentioned, Dr. Botanica, who I also advertised, on the channel. He and I, Brother Dave, but now more Dr. Botanica and I work together because I do the AO scans, and when those reports come up and show all of this stuff is going on, not now he can read. I can read them, but he can read them from his medical, holistic, medical practice, and he does use a lot of Oriental medicines. He understands and overstands and understands. So we work together. So once I do the scan, then he gets the reports, and then he can give them protocols and so forth. And I've seen so much. I mean, my cat was listless for like some of y'all have seen me pick my cat up sometime and put him, let him be seen. Well, 4 days ago he became ill and listless, and he hadn't eaten for 3 days. And I was getting ready to take him to the emergency place where they wanted like 350 notes to walk in the door, just to walk in the door, not to do anything to him. And finally realized, scanned him, and all kinds of things were going on with him. And even the chakras were out of whack. I mean, of the cat, and and they have some extra different chakras that we don't. They have something called a bud, which is on each one of their feet, that chakra. But anyway, long story short,
we have them too. Under our foot, the sole of our feet has a chakra on each foot. The palm of our hands have a chakra in each chakra.
So what they call them on the cat or the dog is the bud chakra. And so it showed all of that. And I think 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 chakras of his were out of whack. and his blood count, this, that, a lot of things were going. He was listless. I had to call him a couple times to see if he was still breathing, and sent it to Dr. Botanica, and he's reading this, these things, and he's seeing nutritional issues and various things, and then bling, it hits me. What would have made him become sick like that quick? We had put Turo ant killer in a little container and around, because ants had invaded the kitchen, and we had them around the island, but one of them got kicked and the liquid came out. So intuitively, I knew cat must have licked that, thinking it was right, and he was poisoned. I sent him scans and did some different things, ordered some things on Amazon. It came in 4 hours, force fed him, did some stuff, and couldn't find the card that I was going to take him to the emergency room and send him scan frequencies. And this morning scanned him again. All of his stuff had changed. All his numbers, everything changed. Everything that was, all of his chakras are in balance except for his heart. Heart chakra still, and it probably is always out of balance because he's kind of like that. But today he got up and ate after 4 days, and he kind of came back to himself. But it wasn't until I realized what had happened to him. And so, and I also sent his scans to Dr. B, so he could look at them and he could see that something was going on. But we have determined that he has a mineral deficiency, like a lot of us do. So, but I'm just saying that type of approach to stuff. And, when you know that stuff, you can be such helpful to yourself, to your family, and to your friends. You don't make yourself a victim to allopathic, pharmaceutical, drugs that are going to have all kinds of side effects and all kinds of, side effects. So I'm happy for the natural approach. And then you told me something today about the importance of magnesium.
Yeah, because you can't use any of the trace minerals required for bodily functions without magnesium. It's the great synthesizer. And the same with vitamin C for all of the vitamins. It's the great synthesizer. And one of the old books I read went into the medical studies on nutrition and the different vitamins and how they affect certain conditions. And you would be surprised what they call macro dosing, massive doses of vitamin C cure so much stuff, but they don't want people to know about it because it's a facilitator for all of the rest of the vitamins. And magnesium is the facilitator for the trace minerals. Have
you ever heard about glutathione?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I put glutathione in my mouth, and in nano, these are like down to a nanoparticle, because when it gets into your gut, everything can get burned out, but it works in the mouth. So because I swish it in my mouth for 30 seconds to a minute, it absorbs in nanoparticles in the jaw and gets through the body that way and bypasses the stomach acids. And but these are things that we don't study. We rather have somebody else give us all of these poison things, and we need to do more. Yeah, but I'm glad that we see all of these phases of Rod.
You remember when you had me talk to him? What the first thing he asked me about?
Dr. B.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever it was, I knew you knew. I realized you knew.
It was about the PQQ.
I'm on PS, me on PQQ. Yeah.
Right. So the PQQ is for the mitochondrial. It's the fuel for mitochondrial in the physical world. But most of the mitochondrial, when it's operating in its optimum function, it's spiritual. It's the spirit energy that charges and powers the cell at its micro levels. Mm-hmm. So when he asked me about it and I started telling him that it was the fuel for mitochondrial, he said, man, you know how many naturopaths I asked about that don't know what that is? You know what it is?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I didn't remember which thing it was, but I knew whatever it was, you knew it right off the bat. And so, but yeah, so, I just try to do the things that are natural and to keep myself, going. I'm sitting here, I'm sweating. I'm sure it's like 90 degrees still here. We've been on here for just about 3 hours. Listen, we have an event coming up. I wish, I know you can't, but I wish you could be here. But we have an event coming up in August, and we are hoping that all that can because last year we did 2 of these things called up close and personal, and this year we're only gonna do one, but it's a whole weekend, 3 days. So we're hoping that we can get at least 85 to a max about 100 folks to come out and hang out with Grand Sheik and myself and others, and who knows.
That'd be a great pleasure if I'm able to make it, but I don't know what Big Mama gonna have me doing next.
You will
So
ask Big Mama, because we'll bring it here. You ask it, and I won't even announce it. It will be a secret. If you do show up, it will be. I wouldn't even put it on the.
It would be on short notice anyway because who's in it now?
Fallen angels end up going. So once we start matriculating north back into Europe, yep, Zumbe. Now, when you look that up, you're going to find that it means the same thing as the Sanskrit word avatar in English. That's where your word zombie come from. When they're calling you the walking dead, you the walking dead because your God form is asleep within you. And that's why they say it's in your sacrum. And you got to cross the burning sands. Or you have to cross the ruby red floor set. What's the ruby red floor set is the base chakra. It's the red chakra. It's where all of your energy gets trapped. We don't get too much into that, but we're trying to find out how to locate the gods on earth. Now, some people are born with natural psychic ability. They the gods on earth. Only problem is they get indoctrinated, and the indoctrination work the same way as wrapping them up with rope from head to toe. All of your psychic abilities is trapped within you, and you can't release it because of your belief system. Your belief system is incompatible with who and what you are. You got sacred sex and you got animal sex. All sex ain't the same. One person can have animal sex while the other person having sacred sex. But the one having sacred sex gonna change the one having animal sex. They can't stay in that animal state but for a few minutes. That's why men have premature ejaculations, because they have an animal sex. You can't have a premature ejaculation if you having divine sex, if you having God sex. It's not possible because you can't raise the energy in a 3-minute ejaculation. The energy won't raise. There's a lot of techniques. I'm not going to go on over them here because this is about identifying the fallen ones and what happened to them and where they at. Okay, so now you've seen them in Genesis 6, right? When they married the daughters of men. When you get to Psalms 82, they give you a whole discourse about the royal family being gods in flesh and falling like the princes and dying like men. It's telling you about your reincarnation cycle, or we can walk in too. If you want to know about walk-ins, the book is by Ruth Montgomery, and I think it's called Strangers Among Us. And they talk about the walk-ins in detail, and there's not a whole lot of people that can understand it. Not necessarily. Your pineal gland can be calcified and you can still have your psychic abilities intact. It's just that it'll be more difficult or restricted in how much of it you assimilate. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. You have a child born that can see stuff naturally. And over the years, his pineal gland start to calcify the same as regular. But then something happens, but he can still see. But his